The Economic Community of West African States has appointed former Nigerian President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan as special envoy to lead its mediation mission in Mali. In a statement issued by his media advisor, Ikechukwu, the sub-regional body disclosed that Mr. Jonathan's appointment was aimed at resolving the worsening socio-political situation in Mali. As a special envoy, the former president would facilitate dialogue with major stakeholders in Mali, including President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, opposition leaders, civil society, and religious organizations towards resolving the socio-political crisis in the country. Now, speaking on the appointment, President of Ecowas, Jean-Claude Cassibro, and said Jonathan was appointed given his position as former president of Nigeria and his role and contributions to the maintenance of peace, security, and stability in the region. An international affairs analyst, Paul Ejime, joins me via Skype from Abuja to discuss this new development. Good to have you join us, Paul Ejime. What do you make of the choice of former President Goodluck Jonathan as the new envoy to Mali on behalf of ECOWAS?
Thank you. So, well, he's not new to Mali. Remember, he functioned as president. He was co-mediator with the now deposed Burkinabe president, Compaoré. So the two of them worked on it from 2012 to 2013, when Mali was also burning. So I think he's returning to an old area, but this time perhaps the dynamics have changed a bit, and also he is now an ex-president. Compaoré has been deposed. Now Malians are asking for what happened to Compaoré to happen to Keïta. And I think President Goodluck will need all the good luck that he requires in this assignment. But, you know, talking in terms of breaking it down, the issue now is that there is opposition. You look at the problem of Mali. It's not just, you can't look at it from the surface. It has its root cause. Keïta was elected 2018, but he has not been able to govern Mali, all the territories. The north has remained on the hands of the terrorists or the Jawids, or not the Tuaregs. Those who are seeking independence. And so then that rebellion has also shifted to the south, to the center of the country. So he's been a president that is in government but has not been in power. And now he has also not acquitted himself in glory with some of
if
what
I may butt in
in
here,
March.
If I may butt in here, there are two levels to this crisis in Mali. One of them is a political tension and the other is a security tension. But let's start from the political tension in Mali. Mali has witnessed political tensions over a disputed legislative election in March, and some of the results were later overturned by the country's constitutional court in favor of Keïta's party, and that led to widespread protests in various cities. Now, Jonathan's mission is to facilitate, or former President Jonathan's mission is expected to focus on facilitating dialogue with all Malian parties. Now, how do you expect that to play out?
Well, you cannot deal with the security issue and then leave the political. I think they are intertwined. So you cannot go there and then begin to look at what happened from March. I think it dates back to the beginning of the era of the rebellion. The fact that northern Mali is a problem area for whoever will want to govern it. And that is what has led to opposition. The fact, part of the problem, part of the criticism he has today is that he has not been able to, bring stability. He promised that he will end the rebellion. He has not been able to do it. The March election was just an addition to a fire that was almost simmering. So they are related. And then to solve it, you would have to go back to 2012, when the rebels moved to capture, trying to capture Mali, Bamako, the capital. And so these are then you look at the dynamics, you look at the social economic problem, you look at the religious implication, you look at the security issue too. So both are related. Politically, you cannot divorce the security challenge from what we may call the political crisis. So it has to go down into bringing all the stakeholders. If it is the Northerners are looking for autonomy there, but the government in Bamako says they will devolve power. That has been the issue. And now it's been complicated.
Again, my apologies. Just permit me once again to butt in. You're talking about the security challenges. We know that in 2015, a peace deal was signed between the government and some insurgent groups. Now that peace deal has not been implemented because of these political tensions and security tension. So what is the best way to go about that, especially with former President Goodluck Jonathan as a special envoy?
It will involve an inclusive and very sincere engagement of all the stakeholders internally, which will mean all those that are now opposed to the Keita government. What do they want? And then the government will now listen to them and be able to find a way forward. In doing that, they need an inclusive. Perhaps what will work might be a unity government to bring all the opposition, to bring some members of the opposition into the government. And that will be a starting point. Before now, they look at because this is just what you call the immediate cause of the problem. But what are the remote causes? And that is why you have to go back to northern Mali. And then what role is France playing? France is the colonial master, and then has some missions, just like Ecowas used to have a FISMA. Now it is a UN. All of them. There is a UN force, there, and things are happening that really will require not just Malians taking responsibility for peace in their country, but also the international community will have to come in. Ecowas, like they have now sent President Goodluck Jonathan, and then AU, UN will also come in, UN office for West Africa and the Sahel. So they will all come into, and then even Algeria, because this is Mali's problem has gone beyond its borders. So that is what will happen, an integrated, inclusive, and then structured strategy to be able to get everybody on board. Keita cannot go it alone. Otherwise, what happened to Kampare, the man who was mediating, could also happen to him. But I think with some preventive diplomacy, management of crisis, and then everybody being sincere about what you are doing, and then France coming out to also show its hands. Where does his interest lie? And it has to be in the interest of Malians, not any external forces, because at the end of the day, that is what it is.
So like you rightly mentioned, this whole thing goes back to 2012, after a fake coup where some members of the ethnic Tuareg group allowed Al-Qaeda-linked militants to take over a huge part of the northern half of the country. So what can be done in that regard? Because now, beyond politics and beyond talks, there is already a serious security challenge. So should African Union be pulling together, or should Ecowas be pulling together troops to resolve that crisis? How should that be resolved going forward?
Okay, that will be the last resort. I think they will have to go with dialogue. Now, you mentioned the many, several agreements that have been broken. They were signed, but they've been broken. And then the coup was against Toure, President Toure. And now Keita is on board. So what will happen is that everybody will have to come to the table, because even after fighting, everything is resolved around the table. So let people negotiate. Let the opposition say what they want, and then the beleaguered and president will also, with his party, lay down their cards on the table, and then those who are mediating, I think Ecowas should lead, but they have to have a very strong leadership to be able to let everybody, play their role, because to be able to tell truth to power, both to the government and then to the opposition, to see that it is in their best interest that a stable Mali is in their own interest. Ecowas or the region is facing a global pandemic. No, they don't have time now to begin to mobilizing forces to go to for peace mission. Ecowas already, they have one in the Gambia. They have another one in Guinea-Bissau. Will be difficult to begin now to mobilize any forces. The countries are focused on fighting the pandemic. So they should do well, the Malians will do well to put their differences aside, come to the table, and then decide what is best for them with the support of the international community, like you mentioned, the ECOWAS, AU, and then the UN. But it's not going to be easy to assemble any forces now, so they have to talk and then get to the root of the matter. Yeah.
I will see how things play out in Mali. International Affairs analyst Paul Ejime, thanks for talking to TVC News.